Welcome everyone to this new edition of GM Web3 dedicated to MultiversX like every Wednesday at 8 a.m. UTC. I am very happy to be there every Wednesday, and I won't be alone today. I will receive three guests to join me to discuss about MultiversX news and an ecosystem. But first of all, I'd like to thank the partners of this show, Atom and EAPS. Let's start by Atom. Atom is a lending protocol, lending and borrowing protocol on MultiversX, and thanks to its intuitive interface, you can put your cryptos to work in total security. Note that they're a leader in liquid staking also, and they have launched the first native stablecoin on MultiversX, the USH. You will find all the link in the video description, but also on the podcast, and they are offering $15 in their token, the HTM token. To participate, all you have to do is to quote tweet the link on Twitter, and the winner will be announced in the next few days. Thank you very much, Atom, for your continued support. So today we'll speak about different topics. First of all, we'll come back to the different hacks that happened these last days, starting by CETUS hack, concentrated liquidity protocol that was hacked on Sui blockchain, and we'll compare it to what happened to MultiversX. But what will it be interesting is how each blockchain has found the compromise, the perfect trade-off between decentralization and security. After we'll speak about Andromeda. Andromeda is today. It's Andromeda. You can see it on X by scrolling. So it will be today at 5 p.m. UTC. So we'll try to understand what is it and what it will change. And if we have time before 11:30 CET, we'll speak about the decision of QoWatt, one of the biggest project on MultiversX, that announced last night during a live AMA on their Telegram that they were considering leaving MultiversX because the founder, Hugo, no longer trusts the Minkus brothers and the blockchain. So it will be interesting to discuss about this. So let's welcome my friends. And first of all, Joachim. Hello, Joachim. How are you?
Morning. Well, you're the only one who can get me early this morning. Usually, my day starts a bit later, because I'm in the UK, so it's even a bit earlier. So, but glad to be here, and very fascinating topics we're having
Thank
today.
you very much. And yes, GM must be in the morning.
I know. Well, I've heard it's
Yes,
always
it's
GM
true.
somewhere,
But
right?
for now we are in Europe, so. But yeah, very happy to have you. It becomes often on GM Web3. You're starting
Indeed.
to be like a regular columnist. Always a
Yeah.
pleasure. And let's welcome the second guy that will be with us the whole show long. It's Davey. Hello, Davey. How are you? Davey, can you hear me? Can you speak? Can you say hi?
Why is it always Davy?
Well,
Can you hear me?
yes, now yes.
Okay.
Hello, Davey. How are you? GM.
I'm fine. How are you?
Very good. It's not
I
just
think
day.
I think it's the first time we hear you so clearly. This is the first in this stream of GM Web3.
Yeah, I don't know what happens with my devices, to be honest. It's the same device every time.
We hope it will be okay. Just to the audience, hello everyone. Don't forget, of course, that you can interact with us. You can ask all your questions. Feel free to just comment, say anything you want, and if it's relevant, we'll share it during the live. We'll try to answer as best as possible and always unfiltered. And let's start. by the first discussion I would like to have with you. It's really funny because I start to choose the topics to chat about on GM Web3 in general during the weekend. So we discuss about it, and often on Wednesday it's already past because things are moving so fast. But I think it's still relevant because Sui yesterday announced new events around the hack of CETUS. But first of all, can you guys, Joachim or Davey, maybe in a very simple and quick way, remind us what happened on the concentrated liquidity protocol CETUS on um, on Sweet blockchain? Yeah, can you maybe remind us what happened?
Yeah, Davey, I know you're much more better informed than me, so I'll let you take the lead.
So you're asking what happened on Sui?
Yeah. It will be the start of the discussion if you want.
So the summary is there was a big hack on Sui. The biggest DEX was hacked, and $220 million in Sui tokens were drained from the DEX. The validators on Sui, so 67% of the validators, voted on freezing the funds of the hacker, which was able to bridge $60 million, and $160 million were frozen. And this is the first step. After this first step, there was another vote, which ended today because it reached the quorum and the majority, for moving the funds from the frozen wallet back to the CETUS addresses.
Multisig, yeah.
And that's it. And the debate is it okay for a blockchain to have the power to freeze the funds of an hacker, even if voted by the validators, and then to move the funds from a wallet to another?
So, to add on top of that, it is important because obviously we had what happened on MultiversX a few days before. I think it's important to clarify that the CETUS hack was a smart contract exploit, meaning that this one of the smart contracts that had been coded by CETUS for the solution had the flow that was exploited, while on MultiversX this was on protocol level. I think that is a clear distinction to make because what is interesting is that the SUI protocol decides to do a governance call and vote to that when it wasn't, again, a protocol, it was a third party error. And they are saying for the greater good, we need to have a vote and discuss how to move forward. And as you said, it raises many questions, and I'll get started in a minute about my thoughts on it. But I said, like, there were several questions that I asked. Freezing the funds in the first place, which again happened also on MBX, where we see it's been happening many times across hacks across the world. For example, Circle and Tether are very good. I'm going to quote that at freezing quite rapidly when there's been experts in hacks on other chains. So there's always been through a specific token a form of centralization if the token can be frozen, etc., as we've learned on MultiversX, and as was the case for certain tokens again during the MultiversX hack, even if it only was for a few hours. They actually, more than freeze, they paused the token, meaning that no one could send it until then the blockchain resumed and they unpaused them. So those are one part, which could be a debate about decentralization too. And then there's a part of should the chain actually make that big of a change as to migrating funds from one wallet to another without any action being taken by the wallet itself?
Yeah, the main issue of this discussion altogether, and guys from the audience, feel free, of course, to say your take about this. Will be the trade-off between the moral, the good, the justice, and the ethic of the code, that is centralization, and ask for like permissionless and yeah. So that will be interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe can we also, for those who are listening to us, remind what was the hack on MultiversX very quickly, very shortly. Maybe we can state the difference between both because it's a completely different. But what will be interesting today will not about the hack itself, but about the reaction of the blockchain, the validators, and so on. So, who wants to summarize again? Because we spoke about it last week's, of course, but just in a few minutes, what happened on MultiversX? It was 3 weeks ago, I think.
So really
Oh
not really
yeah,
3 weeks.
times go fast.
But no. So to go through very very quickly. Basically there was, to keep it simple, kind of a if statement, a verification on protocol level that wasn't being done properly for a very specific case that isn't actually supposed to be used, but was discovered by the exploiter and then used several times and at the end for massive amounts, which triggered the response from the team. And to go through the events, as soon as that got realized, they started freezing and pausing certain tokens. Some funds got got swapped and sent to centralized exchanges, and then the validators had a call together where at least 25 of them, not 25 nodes, but 25 validators and the pool of nodes under their control, decided to stop approving blocks, which resulted in halting the chain for 2.5 hours before to be able to patch the problem. This send a new version to all the validators, which updated very quickly and were very responsive, and then resume the blockchain with the new code and exploit no longer possible. Because one of the issues were that one person discovered the exploit and used the exploit, and then it seems that other people started also wanting to replicate it, which was one of the main issues. Well, if we take the example of the CETUS hack, it can't really be replicated because the hack already did everything. Like there was no more damage to be done because the pools had already been liquidated. While on the protocol level error, anyone can mint any token, create any token. So like it could have kept going endlessly if it wasn't stopped at the right time. So there are quite a lot of differences that makes it very different responses needed, but also still opens the discussion to decentralization. And then I'll quickly reply to what you said, and that is where I would like to discuss the CETUS vote, etc. For me, there is a difference, a massive difference between decentralization and immutability. Decentralization just means more than one, right? One is centralized, more than one is decentralized, and then you can discuss at which extent something is decentralized. Immutability, which is a big part of blockchain and a big part of the code, is the fact that like once something happens, you can't backtrack because validators keep going on, and it is blocked by time. And this is where we can discuss, should a blockchain be immutable no matter what? But I'm on the defending side of saying that like if there are several votes, several validators that make a decision, and those validators are the one decentralizing the network in the first place, it doesn't make it less decentralized that they're making such a decision, because they made it together. It wasn't one unilateral actor making a decision, which then would make it centralized. But the immutability subject is a very interesting one, and I would love to get David's opinion about that.
You're definitely right to add this notion of immutability and remind us the DDAO hack that led that
Yeah.
Ethereum blockchain going through a hard fork. So even the most decentralized blockchain, except Bitcoin, of course, had to roll back after a hack. So yeah, both are not.
Also,
Yeah.
Bitcoin had to do that
Yeah, absolutely.
in
Yeah.
2010.
Mm-mm-mm.
And that's where it's interesting, because like even though I feel like the critics are more from the outside than the inside of the Sui community, but if the debate was much more controversial, let's put it that way, we could have seen a Sui hard fork happening with the ones saying actually no, we refuse that the validators can do that. We want to continue a future where actually the funds stay in this hacker's wallet. And the second interesting part is that the hacker's wallet got, like, the assets he had, the 160 million, were frozen. So no matter what, the hacker wouldn't have been able to use those funds. So it was either, do we consider those funds lost forever, frozen in a wallet, or do we actually send them back to be redistributed to the users? So I think this, honestly, I think this hack and everything it led to is fascinating, because it actually, I think it's sad in the moment, but good in the long term, because it opens for those very healthy debates.
Yeah, I remember talking about this specific thing some months ago, because I saw that the community really don't understand how blockchain works. So basically, nothing is immutable. The way that the terms that I found is that everything that we do on blockchain is not immutable, but consensus guarded. It means that the guarantee that you have of the whatever you put on chain to not be modified, cancelled, whatever, is not because of the cryptographic guarantees, but because of the consensus strength. And this is important to understand, because otherwise we get into these debates that really show that a lot of people don't really understand how blockchain works. Even if we wanted immutability, currently with the tech that we have, is not possible. Like, I'm sorry, like, even if someone likes immutability, we can't really reach
Yeah,
immutability. At max, we can reach this sort of hardly immutable systems, so that if you want to change things, it's extremely hard. Like, if you wanted to do that on Bitcoin, it would be extremely hard, because reaching consensus on Bitcoin is way harder than on Sui, because it's more decentralized at this moment.
yes, but as you said, I think it's important to clarify. You're saying basically everything is immutable unless the majority of validators decide against it. Um, and that's where the immutability gets lost, because validators can together agree to change something. Um, and as you say, like, it's nothing that's, as a user, you can't really control it, except again if you decide to do a hard fork and live your own life on that. But we've seen that that doesn't tend to be very successful. Um, but yeah, like, it is a very interesting debate in the fact that, in this, to the difference of a democracy, because I think that's where things get interesting. In a democracy, we elect a parliament, etc., right? And well, I know it changed from country to country, but I'm going to just take a basic example. We elect a parliament, and the parliament makes a decision, and majority of parliament gets voted through, etc. Let's put it, and let's make a very simple model. And the difference with blockchain is that, and especially in proof of stake, is that we don't elect. It's a plutocracy, right? It is the people who have the funds, who are able to run validators and therefore have a stake in the game, that together decide what is best for the chain. And in the case of Sweden, they decided that yes, we should move back the funds from validators, and they went even a step further, because they did, as you said, the governance vote to the users. Was it just the user, or was it about only validators? David, can you confirm that to me?
It was the two validators, yeah.
Okay, only the validators voted.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
only the validators.
Yeah, so that is where I would say that, like, proof of stake blockchains are more plutocracy than anything else, because it requires capital to be able to have a say, and they come to a decision together that they believe is the best, is either in the best interest of the chain or their own best interest, because that is where also it becomes very interesting with governance in general.
A representative plutocracy could be said.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm going to specify why representative, because obviously if you have even more capital, you can have more nodes, and therefore you have more say. While in a classic plutocracy, it would be like in a few centuries ago, basically the rich ones have a say, but like it's not because you're richer that you have a stronger say. Well, in this case, for validators, it is. Thank you, David.
Yeah, we had the space yesterday where with DB, where also the Swift founder came to speak, and he talked about, like, he made a good point. Like, I already talked about that, but it made me think of other things. So basically, the validators have the power, but at the same time, the power is delegated by stakers, which are staking towards a specific validators, and so delegating the consensus power, let's call it this way. In that sense, once people really understand how blockchain works, and it's currently not the case, they'll understand also the responsibility in choosing the validators to stake with. So not only based on the actual yield that they earn from the validators, but also the actual power that they delegate to validators. So the point that he made is, if you are staking with a validator and that validator is making a choice that you don't agree with, you should unstake from that validator and staking with one that actually aligns with your politics, your morals, or whatever.
That is a very interesting point, and I think we are still early in the sense that like there are very few actual decisions that are made by validators, and but we could expect, as you say, in the future to have every vote and see what every validator voted during that, and be able to pick the one we feel the most aligned with, and basically, as you say, like delegate a voting power which is brought through a stake in the system.
Yeah, something that I've been thinking of is maybe it would be a good idea to have some sort of elections, let's call this way, every X time, so that users are, from a communication point of view, like they're said, choose the validator based on who you think will be a better representative for your interest. Because at this point, most of the users that stake on chain, also because of the interfaces, because of education, don't really know what they're doing. So for them, it's simply a way to earn some money. So I'm staking
So
because I'm earning 7%, and that's it.
I would actually go even further than that, is that we now have a few actors that are offering liquid staking that do not delegate the actual decision power to the users, but are making the decision for the user of where their EGLD is going to be staked once they've deposited them in liquid staking. So even that, and that is one of my biggest beef with liquid staking, is that it actually removes the power of the user, and the user basically delegates it to the liquid staking provider, for example, Hatom or Xoxno, and through that, um, they get to decide, and they can actually give more or less power to one validator than the other, than that Hatom, I'm going to take Hatom as an example, feels more aligned to. Well, actually, the user might disagree with that validator. And that is where I'm actually looking forward, and hopefully it will happen, to a more awareness-based liquid staking, where the user can actually specify to who they would like to stake.
It's a good point. And you also, the issue that I see with that is the dynamics in play. So actually, what users are looking for is the best yield. Like even Soxno that decided to marketize as, yes, we have the best yield, etc. And at the end, if you look at their liquid staking, most of the value is going to their own validator, and also they're not really giving users a say on what specific validators they're investing in, from what I know.
Well, neither does
And
Hatom, right?
yes, exactly, it's the same. But Atom, like even for Atom, the one of the priorities is, there are two priorities. The first one is to have the best distribution possible, while at the same time not having validators that could potentially go out from the consensus, and so not receive rewards and damage the actual yield for
Yeah.
the liquid staking. So you have to balance, because
Sorry.
users want basically to have a nice yield. And
Sorry to interrupt, but what you mentioned, guys, here is very important because it talks about the communication and the marketing. All what you say is true, it's fact, but it's of course biased by the way the project are communicating. When a project communicates about decentralization, about the users and the holders have a say, and so on, when they encounter difficulties or problems and so on, they have the truth that go back to their face, and there at this very moment, the community can of course complain about that. So when you don't claim that you are decentralized as fuck, when you don't claim that you are the most decentralized, the most secure, the most fair through different validators and so on, when people are talking about this fact, you can say, okay, I have never claimed this. So it's often about marketing and communication. And in this case of the liquid staking providers XOXNO and Atom, I think Atom never claimed that it will be 100% equitable about the decentralization between the validators. Meanwhile, XOXNO did, but when you fact check, you can understand that it's not really the case.
Well, I think that no matter which actor we're picking, they selected validators and at their discretion,
Yeah.
and then selected the distribution at their discretion. I do not know, and I don't think we have access to actually the code that does the distribution of EGLD through different validators and how it is tilted. But as David said, and that is a very interesting point, and that is one of my issues with staking V4, but also like the logic in general, is that as a liquid staking provider, as David was saying, you actually don't want to have very small validators that only have 1, 2, or 3 nodes, because the chance of them being picked in a round isn't as even as the ones with more. But also, if for some reason one of their nodes were to be under the threshold necessary to be active during the round and then go into the auction list, suddenly that would be a big percent of the APR that is cut out. And that is where you see that certain logics that prone decentralization, in the sense that they actually stopped the first come first served validator we had in the past until staking before, now is more actually the bigger you are as an actor and the more nodes you have, with the cap, the hard cap now being 50 nodes per validator. You can create several validators, but anyway, 50 actually rewards you more. And we could even go further by the fact that you can actually now run 5 validators nodes in one machine that has been simplified by the core team through the software they provide. You see that like it is actually trying to make it more profitable and more lucrative for validators, but not actually making it as incentivizing as much as they can to run it on separate entities and separate machines.
we don't even have slashing on MultiversX.
No,
That would
is
change
another topic.
things even further.
Yeah, we have jailing, but we don't have slashing. But Dave, I'll let you explain quickly what slashing is, if people don't know what it is.
So it's something that the Ethereum community really cares about. And let's say you have a validator set of 100 nodes, and one node is misbehaving. What are the actual economic incentives for that validator to not misbehave? There's this thing called slashing. So like the actual rules depends on the blockchain, but what happens is if my node is misbehaving, so it's trying to double spend or whatever, the value that I have in my node can be slashed. So could be distributed to the validators or burned, or like it depends. The actual rule.
We lost him.
Sorry.
No, I'm here. So it's an actual good debate because MultiversX decided to not implement slashing, and we have some sort of small penalty, which is called jailing. So you go out of the consensus group. I don't remember exactly how it works, to be honest, but
So
it's a
I think
small
you're
penalty.
jailed for a period of time. You have to pay like, I think it's 3 or 4 egld, but don't quote me on that. And the problem with jailing was actually a big penalty in the past because of the first come first served, because it would send you at the back of the list, so you wouldn't be validating ever, basically. Again, while here, obviously, because it's auction based, you just need to have the right amount of EGLD still, and you're back in the game. But it's important to specify that actually in the white paper of MultiversX, there is slashing. Slashing has been mentioned, and I think it is redistributed, as you were saying, to the other validators once they get punished, and then if they are distributed as rewards to the delegators, etc. I'm not sure, but it was mentioned, and I think it was supposed to arrive with V3 or V4, but it has been postponed for now. But as you say, it is an additional security for a chain, because the whole point of proof of stake is that the definition of stake is that you put something that you risk losing. If not, it's not a stake. And for you to risk losing it, you need to be able to get punished, which is the slashing. So proof of stake, that still is a very good model, don't get me wrong, but there is no way of actually taking the stake of a misbehaving actor until slashing goes live.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe let's speak about what would happen. I think it's an interesting discussion that we had in private, and I think it's interesting for the community to think about it. What would happen if something like CETUS Gate happen on MultiversX? What could the foundation, the protocol, the validators, what could they decide? What would be possible for them to do? Would it be possible to freeze the fund? Would it be possible to transfer the funds from a wallet? They don't have the keys. So this is what is proposed on a suite. It was accepted or not? I haven't followed. Yes? Okay.
56% was it, Davey? You actually tweeted
Basically,
about it.
like it's more than 99% of who voted for yes, and it's more than 50%. So
Okay.
it's
So
really fast.
let's try to figure out what is possible on MultiversX. What is there any crisis management situation for such case? Let's try to speak about it and what is it possible. So maybe
So
to start, we can start by the token, the ESDT token. There are some flags like can upgrade, can wipe, can freeze, and so on,
and can
and
pose, which is
can
important.
pose. Yes, and even if everything is not checked except can upgrade, we must say that the token manager, the token issuer, can check afterwards. Okay, you just need to have the can upgrade to check the flags
Yeah,
that are not already. So if you check the flags on an ESDT, and for example, can freeze is not checked, if can upgrade is checked, means that the token manager can check the can freeze afterwards, for example.
yeah. Basically, he can upgrade the token
Yeah.
and change the tags to
Okay.
then be able to freeze. It's
Thank
one
you.
transaction more, basically.
Thank
And
you
it
very much.
already happened.
And yeah, of course, it happened in the past. So this is about the token manager, the issuer of the token, the one who owns the token, we can say. because I would say the smart contract, but not ESDTs are not smart contracts. Anyway, but what about at the protocol level? What can do the validators and so on? So I don't know who wants
So
to start.
yeah,
You understand my point.
I'll go quickly back to what David was saying earlier. Is that nothing is immutable if all validators agree on, meaning that that is why you now I hate when you do this here. I lose my train of thought when you put random messages on the screen.
Sorry.
So basically, with all the validators agreeing, they can basically do whatever they want, because they can roll back, they can change, they can change the balances because of a user. So yes, what you call moving funds without having access to the key. Basically, it is just a piece of software, a piece of code that is running on many machines. But if the majority of machines agree on making an exception, that exception will be made. So in the same case as the hack on Sui, MultiversX would be able to do it. The difference, which is an interesting one, the difference is that with geez, I keep losing my train of thoughts. I don't remember what I wanted to say. Anyway, David, if you want to say something while I think about what I was about to say.
Yeah, you're talking about what is actually needed in order to freeze someone's funds, or what
Yeah.
there are the actual protections.
But also what is very interesting, I got it back, is that, and that was the big discussion where we saw Robert Sasu interacting and saying he disagreed, and where we were having a private discussion, David, is that on Sui, if I'm not wrong, they have a function in their code that allows a validator to add addresses to a blacklist, meaning that if an address submits a transaction, if that address is in the blacklist for that validator will not process that transaction. If it's only one validator that has one address blacklisted, and he's the leader of that round, the transaction will just be delayed by one round. But if everyone, or actually the majority, blacklist that actor, they can simply ignore them, and when an actor, another validator that hasn't blacklisted them, submits a transaction with that blacklisted transaction, they will just not approve the proposal by the leading validator. And that is where Robert Sasu commented and said, we should not, as the core team, facilitate that by adding it to the code. That is something that if a validator wants to blacklist or censor or whatever you want to call it, transactions, they should actually have to code it themselves. It should not be something that is plug and play, key in hands for the validators. And that is where we might have a bit different opinions. And Davey, I'll let you start.
Like, something that I don't understand about the debate is basically all that happens on MultiversX, like everything, can already be controlled by a small group of entities or even a single entity. The only thing that can be controlled is EGLD. All the other ESDTs, all of them, like well, there are some exceptions, but let's say the biggest ones, can be controlled by some entities. So the wrapped EGLD, USDC, USDT, anything that comes to our mind. So I don't understand why we are fixating so much on EGLD not being freezable, when in fact most of these STTs that we have that power. So we are saying to ourselves, yeah, we need that type of control in case that something bad happens, but not for EGLD. So I don't understand actually the different mentality when deciding to make STTs upgradable and not for EGLD.
I think the reason behind it is that EGLD is the native token of the chain, so it is in a sense owned by anyone and no one and everyone. in the sense that like it is the validators together that agree on the law that there is a max supply of EGLD, that as many EGLDs are distributed per epoch, etc. So there is no central entity that owns that EGLD, because the EGLD is important. What pays the gas fees, is what keeps the ecosystem alive. So because of that, you can say it is very hard to censor. While any other token that has been released, other than the ones that are being created, being sent to the burn address, etc., and are considered owned by no one, most of them are controlled by entities. So, for example, if we take the stablecoins are backed by a smart contract holding the native stablecoins on another chain like Ethereum. So there is an entity who manages the bridge, who needs to be capable of checking that the balances on both sides are happening. And that is what Robert Sasser said too. They actually had, and that's how they realized, they have a flag that verifies that the amount of USDC in circulation on MultiversX is the same one as the ones in the different smart contracts on BSC and Ethereum. And if there's a discrepancy, they get alerted. So for those reasons, there's a lot of reasons why a token has to nearly be feasible. And same with money laundering, anti-terrorism, etc. As an entity releasing a token, depending on your jurisdiction, you might actually be required by law to be able to freeze assets in a wallet. It's not something that projects want to do, except when there's a hacks and stuff like that, but it is something that regulation asks for, again, in those specific cases.
Yeah, something else I've been thinking of is we talk a lot about open source. Okay, we know that our biggest competitors talk about that as the actual solution to everything, but you actually need a lot of eyes on the code, and the best way is to have economical incentives. The issue with that is that on MultiversX we don't have much liquidity. So even if we have millions of dollars of EGLD and also some stables, actually, if an hacker were to hack the chain, the actual value that it would be able to remove from the chain and to actual profit by going to another chain that has some privacy tools. So, for example, Tornado Cash on Ethereum is extremely small. So the economic incentives that we currently have on MultiversX is not that high.
Let's specify, as a bad actor, very important, as a bad actor.
Yes.
Because, and that was something we discussed as we were doing a recap of the hack, is that there are other protocols and other chains that use solutions like HackerOne, which basically use a third party to manage bounties, etc., to make it attractive for people to actually go through the code, find bugs, report bugs, and depending on the importance of the bug, they can get a few hundreds until like several hundreds of thousands. And that is also a form of incentive, but that is more for white and gray hats, or good actors, to be able to be rewarded for taking the time to go through the code and finding potential exploits. So I think there's a blend of both, right? As you say, like, had there been more bridges with bigger amounts not controlled by certain entities, etc., it would have been much more easier to move funds out and make them vanish from MultiversX. But that is for the bad actors. And while for the good actors, you want incentives like bug bounties and solutions like HackerOne for people to actually take the time and go through your code and spot errors.
Yes. Yeah. A good question is, why did this bug in the VM code was not found earlier? So we know that it was there from a pretty long time. Still, no one really had the time to look into the code and find it, despite the error. Yes, not being easily found, couldn't be easily found, but it wasn't that much complex.
I think like that's the problem with most tech stacks in general, is that you create your base code, you create tests for those codes, and basically each time you're going to make any change to the code, there's this battery of tests that are going to be run to check that everything works as expected. The reality is, again, that function wasn't supposed to be used in the way it was used, but it could be used in the way it was used. So basically, that test was missing. The test checking if that was possible wasn't there. And then basically you start adding new code, adding new tests related to the new code, etc. So you never or rarely go back and actually check, did we do all the necessary tests, etc. I know that the MultiversX team talks about that they've integrated AI checks on top of it. So basically, um, LLMs going through the code and checking if they see anything. But the reality is LLMs kind of still struggle with context, like very big context. Um, so those are the kind of things that like add up with time. And I want to say, had the chain had more users and mostly more builders, it might actually have been spotted earlier. But that is speculation in a sense. But yeah, as you said, that error in the code was there for a very long time. And it's hard to say, but we're very fortunate that it actually went the way it went. The ideal scenario again would have been no halting of the chain, etc., because there would have been an incentive for the hacker straight away to, again, for a solution like HackerOne, submit the bug, get rewarded a few tens, if not hundreds of thousands, for finding such a vital bug. The chain would never have been halted, and the problem would have been patched without anyone else realizing. That is the ideal scenario that you want when there is such errors. That's not what happened, but thankfully, what happened was that it was someone who did those things manually, who was quite slow in doing the different actions, while someone with really bad intentions and well prepared would have prepared several scripts, etc., which would have been a much bigger nightmare to control, and would have maybe needed even more than just stopping the chain, but even maybe a rollback, so going back in time.
Yeah.
Um,
So a
yeah,
question is, how do we prevent this from happening again? So they surely are going to do more checks, more testing, more audits, etc. Okay, but what about open source code? Like, we don't have many people looking at MultiversX code, so it's a reality. So we should have some economic incentives for people to actually look at the code and see if there are bugs. So SUI, for example, has a up to 1 million bug bounty. So if you found a bug that is extremely critical, they can pay you up to 1 million. And they also recently, like today, I guess, announced that they're extending that for 6 months also to DeFi protocols with more than 50 million TVL. So if you find a bug in a DeFi protocol and it's critical, you can
Yes.
you can earn up to 1
that,
million
that's
bug bounty.
that is very interesting. So you're saying that the SUI Foundation would actually be willing to pay a bounty for smart contract codes written by a protocol they do not have control over. That
Exactly.
that is very interesting.
What you mentioned, Davy, is another topic, but it's interesting to decentralize the audit, decentralize the security, so we can connect with the initial topic. And yeah, what we can say about this, and I will give you back the mic just after, is MultiversX is actually not adopted yet. There is like pretty much nobody. We have a very, very small TVL, so we do not attract anyone, including hackers, good hackers. And so, if and when MultiversX will be adopted, when they will reach the 1 billion user they are looking for years now, of course, they will attract also hackers, good hackers. And so,
But bad too.
but when I say good, I say
Okay, skilled,
excellent. I say
skilled.
expert in hacking, not white hat, of course. But thank you for
I think it's a
correcting.
report clarification.
Yeah, I think okay. And so it's important for the ecosystem, for the protocol, for the foundation, also, in my opinion, for the projects like Atom, like XNO, every protocol, every project with funds on it, even Ash Swap, to mention all of them, Jex anyway. So they, I think, must prepare for this adoption with bug bounty, with maybe more audits, I don't know, or anything. Because what happened a few weeks ago on MultiversX was just an exploit. It was just something pretty much hard to find, but not hard to exploit. So imagine what could be possible with someone with an expert in hacking, could kill the chain, could at least harm it a lot. So I join you, of course, about it, because it's all about trust. You don't put your money on the blockchain when you're not, I couldn't say sure, but when you don't trust the security. So, do you have any idea in the postmortem report about it? Was there any, I don't know, announcement about it? From the foundation after the the exploit of a few weeks ago? Do you remember if they announced anything around improving security through bug bounties or more audits, or anyway, or they just say we made audit, it's weird, but we fixed it?
No, so what they did say, from my recollection, so take it with a grain of salt, is that they're going to review the code, they're going to maybe do extra audits, and add new tests, run new tests, etc. But there wasn't any talk of creating bug bounties, etc. And that is where this is going to be 100% speculation, and I want you to take it as that. But as we know, the hacker, the exploiter, realized there was that bug a while ago, actually. Um, and we don't know if that actor actually tried to get into contact with the team to get a bounty, and was, for whatever reason, dismissed, ignored, not taken seriously, which pushed him then 30 days later, nearly, to decide to actually go full expert and like go do it with big amounts, etc. So that is where, that's why, as non-fungible TK is saying on Twitter, we should have bug bounties. The bug bounties should be clear and they should be managed by a third party, because the problem with bug bounties generated by the actor themselves is that they can actually downplay the seriousity of it because they don't want to pay out big amounts, etc. And that's why solutions, again, like HackerOne, etc., which has a third party that will be a
which is the way
mediator.
Swiss doing it.
Yes, which is the way. And Magic Eden is using HackerOne. There's a lot of L1s that use HackerOne or similar solutions, because it protects the white hat or gray hat hacker. It ensures that they get rewarded as they should. And it serves the protocol and everyone on it, because it incentivizes people to actually check for bugs and not to exploit them, but to get rewarded for them. And that is a very important thing. So yeah, I hope they will. I've been pushing for it, but obviously I'm not part of the team. But I
You're
really
not,
hope that they will add. No, I'm not. I really hope they will add the bug bounties to the solution.
Davey?
Okay.
What do you think? Do you think we are ready for adoption?
No, but not for these reasons.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, not for jet. So about security, we are ready.
I'd say probably yes. Like, doesn't this SUI event demonstrate that even if shit happens, we can in some way mm, control the damage? Like also MultiversX, it happened the same. So it's a good enough guarantee, let's say. I have other things against adoption at the moment, because like privacy, for example. But I don't see this as an issue, not a major one.
Because let's it's not the topic of today, so I don't want us to spend hours on it. But you know, communicating about the security of ESDT and the protocol is part of the communication of MultiversX. Okay, they launched the Guardian. They promote the ESDT standard, which is supposed to be better than the ERC20, for example. And I'm sure it is. So it's not. We're not here to debate about is it right or is it false. The thing is, in terms of security, when such a hack happens, um, with a so like not complex hack actually, and the community is, for example, calling for a challenge around the Guardian. The community is like calling for it, like put $1 million in a wallet, like we can say in the comment, but it's not new. It's been a month that the community is asking for such campaign, like, okay, you put 1 million or 100K, we don't care, and you say, okay, hack it, okay, and market it around the Web3 ecosystem, so you can attract hackers and so on. So if they don't do this, it can create some doubt about the security that they claim there is the better. And the second part is, what about the answer after the hack? Are you reassured with this answer, or do you think they could have like done more about it? Because security and trustness is, in my opinion, the most important thing. But what is related to today's topic is, you know what? We don't care if we are hacked, because we can pause the chain, we can roll back, we can ask the validators to, so
No,
let's
like,
open this discussion.
so
Hack is, you know what I mean?
yeah, so I just want to go back to as you said, like the report, and then I'll answer that question, and the 1 million Guardian wallet, because there's several very interesting things with that. So first of all, I recommend anyone who's read the MultiversX report to also read the CETUS report, and see the similitudes and differences, because I actually think that like they've been written in different ways, and it's worth looking into it. So for the Guardians, as they said, there was, I think it was called the heist, where they basically did on test the DevNet. They
Yeah,
had
but
an
it was
incentive
20K. You don't attract
for
good hackers with
yes,
20K. But
we
you're
agree,
right. But you're right.
because I think I'm going to explain why, because for people 20K might sound like a lot of money, and it is a lot of money, but I want to specify why it isn't 20,000 isn't that attractive, because you most likely won't find any bugs. So even if you're the best hacker in the world, you're not guaranteed those 20,000, because there is a high likelihood that there is no way to exploit it. So that is why prices for finding exploits are very high, because you're asking people to look for something that shouldn't exist in the first place. It's not like a treasure hunt. The thing you're looking for might not exist, and that is why the price needs to be so high to actually be worth the gamble of spending time to looking into the code. Why they haven't done the Guardian with 1 million and said that here's the seed phrase, etc. I'm going to give my 2 cents. I think it has to do with actual physical security, because the Guardian uses a QFA protocol. So we have the invisible Guardian, right, that is on the device, but we also have the QFA Guardian, which uses a service provider used by MultiversX. And I think one of the risks with putting such big amounts is that it could actually put people at risk. Someone, as we've seen in the few past weeks, maybe deciding to kidnap someone to gain access to that QFA provider, and therefore have access to the keys of the Guardians, and then suddenly being able to unlock Guardians. But again, most importantly, putting lives at risk. And I think that is the thing, that is where we sometimes we need to look further than the code, that even if the code is extremely secure and well done, there are human risks that suddenly get into play that are worth taking. And to answer your question,
Yeah, the question, maybe to rephrase it, don't you think that like rollback possibilities, freeze possibilities, and all of this maybe encourage blockchain not to invest too much in security? Because if there is a hack, actually you freeze, you roll back, and you're done. So it's of course a polemical question, but I think it's interesting to manage between security efforts and the possibility for the blockchain to roll back, freeze, and so on.
So there's several things. First of all, there's still funds that can be moved. So there are always losses. The question is how big the losses are. Because if you take the example of the MVX one, there were funds sent to centralized exchanges. And not only North Koreans, by the way, Jerem, China also has a very good hacker team. And there's quite a lot of governments that have very, very good hacker teams. So no, the best hackers in the world are not arrested with Granel. They are being hired by very good teams backed by governments. Anyway, so like there is always a cost, and obviously if the chain, as you say, rollback, stops, freeze, etc., it does halt services. And we are right now blockchain isn't vital as of now. But a little bit like in hospitals, you have actually batteries that as soon as the power goes, they turn on and make sure that all the most important systems are still running in the hospital. If you stop a blockchain and you actually have very important things running on that blockchain, halting it can have disastrous real life implications. Not today, because we haven't gone as far an adoption, but in the future, yeah. And as more time goes, and I'm not only talking about TVL again, it could be real life services, the more we're going to depend on that technology to be sturdy, to stay online. And for that to happen, we need to make sure that we have solutions that stop this from happening. But as you're saying, Jerem, with the hack we've seen on Sui and MultiversX, I think we're having this healthy conversation of like, should it be immutable or not? And by saying I'm on the side of it shouldn't in certain very specific scenarios. If there's a majority that agrees, it actually brings us closer to the regular financial system in a sense, where you can backtrack SWIFT transfers, etc. But where there isn't one actor deciding, it is a consensus, so it needs to be worth their time. The thing with that is there is a form of unfairness, right? You lose 10,000 to a hacker, no one's going to back deny and no one's going to do anything. A few 100 million disappear from a decentralized exchange. They decide to do something, and that is where like there is a threshold on when governance will decide to kick in, and that can debate when
and how fast also.
Yes, because that is also a very big part. Is like how fast you act can play a big role in how much is being lost.
Thank you very much, guys. If you have anything to add about this topic, do it now, or we'll move to the next topic. I would like to speak about Andromeda. Is it okay for you guys?
Yeah, why not?
Why not? Yep. It's Andromeda. So if we don't talk about it today, we'll speak about it never. No, yeah. So before that, I would like to thank eApes, the second sponsor of this show. They are offering $15 in their token, eApes, $15. All you have to do is to quote tweet the link of the space on Twitter by saying something about GM Web3. You can say good thing, bad things, anything. Just quote tweet it. You can say also anything about Joachim. What do you think about him? Is he smart? Is he beautiful? Is he great? Do you like his voice? Anything. So eApes, yeah, they are launching like a new collection on Solana. They're expanding and exploring new ecosystem, a little bit more than 3,000 new NFTs. I don't know when, but they're working on it. So good luck to them, and yeah, thank you very much for the support. Again, you can find their link in the description of the video. So it's Andromeda Day. So Andromeda is announced like the biggest upgrade ever since mainnet. MultiversX and of course the two co-founders, especially Benjamin, are talking about it for months. In every vlogs, in every post, it's Andromeda, one shot finality, the biggest thing ever, etc., etc., etc. So it was live. It was ready 7 days ago. The validators had 7 days to update the version of the software before it's completely live. So it's supposed to be live today at 5 p.m. UTC. So first of all, can you, Davy or Joachim, in a very simple way, if possible, maybe tell us what it will change for MultiversX for users and so on? Who wants to start?
I've done a lot of talking. I'll let Davey go on that one.
Basically, yeah,
Davey?
can you hear me?
Yeah, cool.
Yes.
So basically, the biggest things that will change are the time to finality for the transactions. What this means is now, if you are executing a transaction on MultiversX, you need to wait some blocks in order for the transaction to be final. Final means that once the transaction is final, it can be changed. Unless, okay, and there's this consensus debate that we had already. With Andromeda, the actual finality will be in one block. So the faster the block is, the faster the finality is. So with 6 seconds, we'll have a finality of, let's say, an instant finality as long as the block is proposed and reaches consensus. This is the biggest change on MultiversX, which adds a lot of security. Then we have the consensus group, which is needed to reach consensus in a shard. Actually is 63 nodes in a shard out of 400 that are actively validating. And with Andromeda, it will be 400 nodes. This will actually further decentralize every shard and increase the actual security of the shard, because the actual power will be in the hands of 400 validators in that shard instead of 63, which is the current consensus group. Then we have the third biggest thing, which is the actual blocks required for cross-shard transactions. So currently, in order to do a cross-shard transactions, so many probably noticed that, you need 5 blocks. And so at least 5 blocks, and then you also have to wait for the finality. With Andromeda, it will be 3 blocks, should be 3 blocks. And so the actual time to transact through shard will come from 45 seconds to 18 seconds. So these are the biggest changes from high level.
Yeah, this morning, sorry, Joachim, just it will take 20 seconds. So this morning, Davey, you said cross-shard transaction will go from 45 second, something like that, to 18 second. And I commented 18 second is still so long for a transaction. Of course, it's better. It's 3 times better, and with Supernova by the end of the year, it will be even faster. But the question is, will this change anything for builders in the way that they are building their smart contract, their UX, and so on? And about the users, do you think they will really feel the difference? Will it be a real game changer? Or is this just an introduction? Like, in some movies, some trilogy, for example, you have a movie that doesn't, that is completely useless. It's just a movie to introduce the one after. For example, Harry Potter, the seven movie is not very good, but it's just an
Part one.
introduction for the eighth one, which will be like a blast. So yeah, with this analogy, what do you think about Andromeda? And maybe to be even more precise, don't you think we do too much communication and so on for just an upgrade, like an introduction to the real one? So don't you think it will be deceptive? That's my question. Joachim
So
first.
let's start with the start. What you are considering the big one is Supernova. And let's specify why. Supernova is the one who brings the block time down by 10 times and brings it to 0.6 seconds. So which is a massive milestone that is supposed to arrive later this year. The reality is that indirectly, as David was explaining, even for Supernova without Andromeda would be slower because it would need 2 blocks on same shard and up to 5 blocks on different. So it would still take up to 3 seconds. 3 seconds cross shard. While here we would go down to 1.8 seconds. Anyway, something like that. Anyway, so it is a stepping stone. Let's put it that way. It is a stepping stone. It is needed to get Supernova. But yes, I am a bit worried that there hasn't been enough communication and expectation management on this update, because it won't feel like a massive change. It will feel like a big change again on cross-chain transactions, because they are going to be nearly 3 times faster. The reality was that, and that has been a problem for a while, is that a lot of builders deploy the smart contracts on the same shard because of that, because the transactions are too slow. So like you see a lot of people, as soon as you actually start digging a bit in the tech, that decide to have a wallet on that specific shard to have much quicker transactions. And that is a design flaw, right? Because you shouldn't be rewarded or punished in a sense by being on the wrong shard. And that, again, with Andromeda is one step of progress that is, like, again, a pretty important one, but won't be felt by the user as much as Supernova will. So yeah, there has been a lot of announcements, but I also think that to attract builders, you have to show progress, you have to show innovation. And I think Andromeda talks more to builders and than it talks to users. Supernova will talk to everyone. But again, Supernova is great for builders too, because it will allow us to build solutions that can have extremely rapid response time. I won't say similar to a server, a bit like a slightly slower server than usual would be 0.6 seconds basically. So yeah, and as Dave was saying, like the consensus change is very interesting, and it's also interesting that it happens again as we were discussing the hack, and that X amount of validators were needed to halt the chain, etc. Even though we had the hack, they still move forward with that and requiring a higher amount of decentralization to be able to do such thing, which means that if Andromeda had been live before, would it have need to actually contact more validators? Would it have taken longer? Is things we can speculate and discuss on, but we can only say it's a good thing that we are needing more validators to actually reach consensus. It protects the network. So that's my opinion.
Davey, what do you think about Andromeda? Are you really bullish, or are you just following the trend?
Like as I said to another user on MultiversX, I don't see, like, by actual evidence, network upgrades moving the needle, and so being this big change that can actually move the price. Because actually, technical improvements are not that important price-wise. What is important is ecosystem growth and progress. And these type of network improvements facilitate ecosystem growth, but are not by itself generating ecosystem growth.
Yeah, but they attract builders, right? Like builders will look like I'm not saying like builders will look into the most decentralized and stuff like that because we know they don't. Some do, but not all of them. And I think that is where we've kind of like focused too much on communication on that, and not enough on this, as again, for example, the simplicity of ESDT standards, etc. Because like, for example, like I'm going to go down a bit very quick, but like tracking transfers of tokens, NFTs, etc. on EVMs is a pain in the ass. Tracking transfers of tokens when they're on protocol level are super easy. So just those kind of things. And I know Sui obviously is an EVM based, but it's object based, which is actually quite similar to MVX, just a different logic. But like it facilitates development, and it makes it sometimes more secure. And I think those are the things that can talk to builders. But again, they need the right tools, and they need it to be easy to integrate. And the reality is that EVM, because of the time it has existed and the incentives that every layer one or layer two built on EVM creates, there's been plenty of content, educational content for builders, documentation, etc., that makes it much more easier. So making the chain more attractive for builders because it's going to be a much more responsive experience, is going to be coded in a certain way, is a good thing, but you need to attract builders. It's not because you have the best tech that builders will just come naturally and therefore make your ecosystem grow because they will attract users, etc. You actually need to put in the extra step of attracting them, giving them incentives to come build, giving them good documentation, good YouTube videos, etc. And I feel like that is where we're not pushing enough. And I would love to see more incentives like that coming from the foundation to attract builders. And not one supernova is here. They should start now and letting builders know that by the time your product will be ready, and supernova will most likely be live, and you'll be able to offer 0.6 seconds response time to transactions to your users. Take the bet of coming and build here. So yeah, as you say, in its own, it's great achievements, but it doesn't attract builders if you don't add it, and therefore it doesn't make grow the ecosystem. Users won't come on their own just because of Supernova or Andromeda, and I think that is very important to understand. Being able to send EGLD or USDCs to one another at 0.6 seconds is something you can do. Well, not EGLD, but like tokens in general, is something you can do on other chains. Again, users don't care about decentralization that much, especially not if we want to have mass adoption. They will care about something that is responsive, something that feels safe, that is easy to use. And that comes through products being built on top. Like, I think the idea of Maya that we had at the time, and I loved it personally, of like being able to send EGLD to each other with a phone number, etc. Like, it's great, but it's ridiculously small compared to the things you're actually supposed to offer as a blockchain. So that's why I'm hoping to see much more products being built and new builders on MVX. And now I'm done with my massive
Thank you,
monologue. Sorry.
Joachim. And because I think I can feel the feeling of part of the community. Of course, you have the bullish guys who are expecting this upgrade like hell. And you know what? It's okay. I hope you will not be disappointed. But from the community point of view, uh, some of them are expecting this upgrade to solve MultiversX problems, attracting builders, attracting users.
And they expect Hush to solve the
Exactly.
problem, and they
You
I
are,
expect
was saying that.
Hat. Like
you are
this,
completely
it's
but
moving the
but
goalposts. But
sorry
like,
to tell you guys, but the difference with the USH, you are right, guys. Some people from the community were expecting USH to solve MultiversX problems, but as far as I know, Hatom never And the ambassadors and the core team and so on, I read all their posts. They never claimed that it will solve, it will save MultiversX, or it will be like something that will make everything great afterward. It's just part of the thing that was missing on MultiversX, a native stablecoin. So the expectation were made from the community itself. And
Yeah.
with Andromeda, when you listen to Benjamin, Lucian, and people around, they say it will be a blast. You know, they're using strong words. Even yesterday, when Benny's daily vlog, he said Andromeda, blast, so on. So you can understand that people are expecting a lot from this upgrade, because this it is what MultiversX wants, to make people bullish and so on. So the risk, of course, is to disappoint them, because in my opinion, and actually seems like we agree, this upgrade won't make any difference in an ecosystem, point of view. I'm not talking about making a finality one shot, making transaction a little bit faster, but okay, we are so far from other blockchain, other finality, other fast, other speed, and so on. So that's my point, and it's always a matter of communication and marketing, because in my opinion, the upgrade is great, it's necessary, but it's just a technical upgrade. So I don't know what you think about it, but if we compare, let's compare maybe with the last upgrade on Ethereum. Let's maybe try to compare. It was what was the name of the last upgrade? Help me, guys. I talked. It was Spectra
On
or
the
something
cities.
like that. Pectra. So it's a
Yeah.
big upgrade of Ethereum. You know, it's validators, nodes can have more. Validators can have more nodes, more blobs. You know, really, it's a deep upgrade for Ethereum. They communicated about it a lot, but it was really. Do you see a difference between this kind of upgrade and the one on
So
MultiversX? I let you guys give us your opinion about this.
So I understand your point. I just think that like Ethereum is in the same place as MVX is. Like Ethereum like has layer twos running on them, has a lot of
There is a lot
users,
of
etc.
expectation
So
from the
like
Ethereum company. There's a lot of
yes,
FUD. There's a lot
no,
of doubt. So you know what I
yes,
mean?
but the expectations are technical. Let me explain. Um, Ethereum is
About
because as we
price,
know, Ethereum
business, and
has this like
attracting people. It's about fee sharing. It's not just technological.
yeah, but fee sharing
With
with who?
the fee sharing with the holders, with the how the foundation is using the funds, how they attract builders, how
Yeah,
you can see it on the price. So
so
it's not just technical, in my opinion. It's about positioning as a layer one of settlement. Is it enough? And yeah.
no, but what they're saying, what I'm saying is, it depends on
Okay.
technical upgrades. The progress that people want, and again, we're talking like that, like if those is like what regular people want. No, like we're talking about builders, we're talking about highly technical people, and we're talking about very engaged users, because Ethereum actually has, compared to other chains, a very technical user base, much more than other chains. So they know that the updates that are waiting for will help Ethereum in kind of like competing against the L2s, because obviously they kind of losing revenue and interest to the L2s. So trying to bring back the attention, and they're working together on like what are the steps that can be done to do that. And they're working together. And yes, there is question about transparency about the foundation, etc. But for them, the foundation does have an annual report of their expenditures, etc. It's just that they don't agree on how everything's being spent. which again is a very healthy debate once you know what they're spending money on. If you don't know what they're spending money on, it's harder to debate in the first place. So like for me, it is different in the sense of like they're actually expecting that technical will solve problems that they have because the problems that are being felt. While here on MultiversX, I would say we are hoping that the technical solution will be enough to attract people, not to satisfy the people already here, but to attract more people. And I think that is where there's quite a big difference with Ethereum. Ethereum was the leading, well, probably still is the leading L1 if you think about TDA and stuff like that. But like already was at the top, still is at the top to a certain extent, and is just trying to reclaim the crown by innovating. MultiversX never was the top layer one, and isn't trying to claim back any crown. Is just trying to like make a place for itself by having technical upgrades. But as you say, it is all about communication and expectations. For me, Andromeda is a stepping stone. It's not a finality without bad wordplay. But yeah, it is required, and I'm excited about it. I think we should, but as you say, it's the way it's being communicated. But that's not new. That's always been the type of marketing we've seen from MultiversX and the core team. And yeah, I don't know what to say about that. Like that's how the
Do you think the expectation will be disappointed, or they are just at the good level for such a major upgrade?
I don't know. Like, there's these like the community always pretend for singular events to actually change things. So they expect for a single product to completely change the project, whatever project it is. They expect a technical upgrade to completely change the chain from one day to another, and it simply doesn't match with reality. So what we'll have is a chain that will start getting competitive compared to what it is now. Competitive with what the market actually needs. So the market needs fast blockchains that are also resilient, reliable, and secure. And we have a lot of this, but we don't have the efficiency at the moment. So the point is not like I don't think that the protocol themselves can really change that much, but they can potentially allow for that thing to happen. So it's necessary, but not sufficient. And probably is not healthy to have the community think that it can actually by itself change things, because it objectively can't. Like, I don't see that happening. Also, because we don't have a huge community that is going to invest a ton of money on a technical upgrade, and it doesn't happen on other chains. So why should it happen on MultiversX now?
Thank you very much, guys. We will welcome our guest, Thomas. Hello, Thomas. How are you?
Very good, thank you. How are you guys doing this morning?
Very, very good. Very happy to have you. Thank you for accepting my invitation.
Always.
No, you guys stay with me, Joachim, Davy, if you can, and if you want, of course, we'll have some chat with Thomas, maybe to make the transition. Thomas, what are your expectations for Andromeda as a builder, of course, but also as a community member?
Yeah, for sure. I won't go too in detail, but the big things. Oh, I guess the context I would say behind it is Andromeda is obviously the big marketing message that MultiversX is pushing right now, and everyone's really hyped with because it's happening today, of course. But it's more of a stage within the whole mission of what they're trying to do with the whole upgrading of the protocol. It started with even other ones like Spiker or Speaker, however people want to say that, where dynamic NFTs is finally being brought into the chain, or the functionality of it. And this is something people have been talking about for a very long time, something which a lot of projects benefit massively from us included. And then Andromeda is really bringing in the reduced block time. And then when Supernova comes in, we finally get to that sub-second finality. So there are a lot of benefits behind a lot of these aspects, but I guess the way I like to look at it is MultiversX trying to bring themselves back on the main stage with competition with all of the big blockchains, the ones with the big budgets and everything like this. And in terms of me as a builder and what we're building, it's just great to have these things because this is the kind of stuff that you need to build a competitive product in today's world. When we look at blockchain technology, we see obviously a lot of people who are in Web3 using it, talking about it and everything like this, but the benefits of blockchain can expand out to industries all over the world, and they're not going to expand to that area unless you have the backing of the infrastructure to be able to make these products achievable and scalable at that stage. So that's really where I'm looking at it from, because at the end of the day, we can't wait 5 seconds, 6 seconds for a transaction to go through. We need to be running these things very fast, especially if one day we want to have millions of users on our platform. So that's probably the main thing I'm thinking about it for.
So I guess I'm just gonna go ask the question you asked us, GM. So would you say that the marketing, the communication might have been slightly disproportionate compared to the feats that actually brought, and maybe got a bit too high expectations, the famous expectation word, for that release, when in reality the big changer, as you're saying, is Supernova?
It is one way to look at it. I wouldn't argue necessarily against it, but the thing I would say is that when it comes to marketing and everything like this, you kind of need to make your stand at some point. And if you want to have the kind of impact that Supernova will have when it finally gets down the line, you need the audience already there listening. So you can't just kind of come out of nowhere and just say, look at us now, we're amazing, like we're bringing something big out. It's a lot of the time about the journey and bringing people along that process. So I wouldn't necessarily criticize them too much on that, but yes, like it's not complete until Supernova.
I like your take, but you could also say it's about the boy who cries wolf too many
Well,
times. So I see.
Yeah,
both
I would
sides.
say that's more about if they bring out like another hyper growth campaign or something like that, then definitely I'd agree with you on that point.
On his last vlog, Benjamin promised more than 10 milestones lined up to make MultiversX great in the coming weeks and months. So we can expect super cycle, hyper growth, big things. Don't laugh, Thomas. Okay, so Thomas, what's up with Philanthrify? I invited you yesterday, and thank you again for accepting my invitation, because I saw a post on LinkedIn, and I wanted to have an update about what you do with Philanthrify, because as you know, I support builders like you who are using blockchain as a tool and not as an end. And what you do for charity is, in my opinion, pretty needed in the industry. So in maybe 20 seconds, can you just pitch what is Philanthrify and tell us what's new with your project?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. So Philanthrify is a new type of giving platform where, unlike normal ones, people just give money to charity and that's about the end of the equation. Where with us and our technology, when people give money to these charities and projects, we can show them where their money's going and the impact it's having at the end of the day, and do it both in real time but also on a personal level. So you're not just another one of the 1 million people that donated to this huge project. You're seeing exactly your impact in it. So recently we've been actually going out and getting customers. We've been we're calling it a soft launch really. But I would say the distinction here is we have two sides of the platform because it's a marketplace. We have the demand side, which is the donors, and then we have the supply side, which is the charities. And if you come in and you know bring in 1,000 donors, it's not too difficult because everyone likes the narrative and everyone likes the idea of being able to see where their money goes. But the problem is, if you bring them in now, there won't be enough charities or projects to be donating to, or there won't be the kind of projects that those donors might want. And so we really need to fix that supply side, the charity side right now. And so that's what we're really going after. We've just sponsored a Charity Times annual event in London last week, which went very well. We had a lot of great conversations with CEOs of rather large charities. We've been in contact with a few big foundations that give billions a year, and those have been very good. Obviously, those are the kind of bigger ones where it takes a lot longer period of time to get any sort of partnership through. But right now, we're just building up those users on the charity side and then getting ready for the donor side later on in the year.
Very cool, very cool. So you decided to build on MultiversX because the technology is suited to what you need at Philanthrify. So what are the next steps in terms of development, maybe technological development, maybe, I don't know, Supernova will make it even smoother and so on. And what's your relation with the foundation? Are they helpful, or is there supporting? So yeah, tell us about it.
Yeah, for sure. So I will take it from two approaches, because with the blockchain side, we actually abstract all of those things away for our users, because we believe long term, if you really want to have tens of millions, hundreds of millions of users, they're not all going to remember a seed phrase, and they're not all going to interact in that kind of way. So a lot of the abstraction comes into play, which means that we kind of have a Web 2 side of our technology and a Web 3 side. In terms of the Web 2 side, we have a fully running platform which can support, to be honest, I think it can support thousands of charities and even hundreds of thousands of donors. But obviously we need to scale it up and grow it from there. But it's good to have that infrastructure ready for that eventuality. And so what we've done is we've built the platform to be also very incentivizing for the charities themselves to come in. So we've built management monitoring tools, we've built reporting tools, which brings in some AI aspects where with all of the data that they're adding into this platform and through the integrations with other softwares that these charities might be using, we can then leverage that to create personalized reports for them, which is quite a big problem in the charity industry, as technology is very limited and there's not really the expertise there. Then another tool that will be coming later this year is grant finding and writing, which is another big thing for the charities. But then I'll jump into the Web3 side real quick, because that's what most people here are very interested in, and it's also arguably one of the most exciting parts of the technology stack. So we have the Web3 side integrated into the Web2 platform, where when users do certain actions, or even a user creates an account, a wallet will be generated for them. That functionality is one of the ones that we'll be starting to work in soon. We haven't done that yet. In terms of the functionality that's already there, we have when transactions are done, money's being spent in these projects and these charities, it is then running through a smart contract factory system where we can accurately label and show where the money's being spent and what project that money's being spent in. And then also bringing in some dynamic NFTs, which is one of the new things that we've just started to integrate. And shout out to Joachim as well and other people in the foundation for helping one of our developers in those aspects. But that's quite an exciting feature, which comes into both the actual proof of the impact that the money's having, but it also comes into gamification when it comes to donors. So when donors can give money to projects and everything like this, they could receive a dynamic NFT. And then the more they interact, if they volunteer time or if they give more money or shout them out in socials, whatever it is, their NFT can change over time into a more rare version. and make it a little bit more of a exciting experience for people. So there's a lot of aspects there. And then I guess to very end it off, we're in conversations with the foundation very regularly. We're also in conversations with a lot of builders on the chain as well. And I would say in terms of building on MultiversX, you know, nothing's ever perfect. And, you know, it's always not super easy building on new technology, but MultiversX does make it very good. The documentation's great. The developer that we just brought in recently, smart contract developer, he actually came from Near and Solana, and he's been very impressed with the documentation and also the support when coming to MultiversX. So I would say that's more of a testament than anything that I would say, because I've been in this space a lot longer.
Okay, guys, Joachim and Devi, if you have anything to ask or say, of course, feel free to do it. Do you plan to issue any digital assets?
Digital assets in what way?
NFTs, token, or anything to empower your ecosystem and maybe to engage more the community of donators or projects, or I don't know.
So we plan to use the technology in gamified ways, but not necessarily in any fundraising and so on like that. We plan to use NFTs, like I mentioned, as gamification. We plan to use NFTs as proof of history, so proof, immutable proof that you were part of that project at an early stage, everything like this.
So it will not be tradable. There won't be any speculation. It will be just the technology to prove, and maybe it can give access to some, I don't know, like loyalty program, but it will be off chain. Am I right?
The loyalty program, I'm
I
not
don't
sure.
know, like something like, I don't know. I have some examples.
Yeah.
So imagine if you participate into many operations as a donator, you accumulate the NFTs of proof, and maybe if you gamify it, you can make it like a marketing thing to engage people to donate more and so on. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. That is definitely what we'll be doing. Another thing we've wanted to do as well, sorry, Joachim, is just have a true utility token where it's not about raising money and it's not about trading the token. It's about every month how much you interact with the platform, how much donations you give in. You can receive these essentially soul-bound tokens, which you can then vote on every month, like what project you think deserves.
Like a governance thing. And what about imagine like a charity war? So two campaigns and there's a war, and maybe the one who rise more will get the fund from the other, or I don't know. Do you think it's something possible, or am I going too far?
You're too
Yeah, I
degen,
know I
Jeremy,
am, but you
degen.
know.
Anything's possible. Anything's possible. I would not say that that's in our roadmap for this year.
I think you should do it. You know, it could be very cool. You imagine, so you have two operation, and so everyone is free to donate for one or the other, and the one who wins the war win it all.
Yeah.
So too bad for the for the loser. But it's great for the winner, so I think it can be very cool.
I think we might need to just do a special feature just for GRM's profile.
Yeah, GRM part would be great. Okay, I will promote it
on DevNet. No, but to add on what Thomas was saying, because I think that is part of what is very interesting towards, again, I think, to put it simply, I think we've been too used to be around Web3 and we want like NFTs to be able to trade them, we want tokens to speculate on, etc. But the reality is that this is like a very small part of what blockchain as a technology can offer, and that in the reality are that NFTs, tokens, etc. are just a tool, and they can be used in many ways. And a way for to onboard users, etc., is to give the benefit of the technology without it having a financial cost or counterpart to it. And I think that what Thomas was explaining about how they plan to use them through gamification, etc., is very interesting, because then you could have the debate of what makes it different from Web2 since I can't trade, etc. Is the fact of the transparency, the history of it, that each time they make a change to your loyalty card or whatever it is, you can actually see the log of it, and it shows transparency and accountability from the actors. And I think that is something that is worth pushing. And that's where I actually think blockchain can have much more wider adoption in real day-to-day life if we take out the speculation.
I completely agree with that. Yeah, and I think there is, question. People can ask questions on, like you said, Joachim. Like, is there any benefit to using Web3 over Web2 when you start to add in some of these aspects? And I think there's many reasons why there are benefits in using Web3 for that aspect, but also I think trust is one of the key things. Like, this is kind of our main vision, our selling point. Trust is at historic lows in the charity industry, is at historic lows, I think, in society in general. Yeah, exactly.
Everywhere.
Like, you don't trust your politicians, you don't trust the people living next to you, everything like this. Society has really moved away from trust, and it's all a mentality of everyone on their own and having to make it. And so I think blockchain is paramount in the future of trying to build trust. The immutability and transparency of it alone makes trust so much easier to bring in. And then when you start to add in smart contract functionality, where you don't need to necessarily trust some developer or some person you've never met before to be able to do what you want to do on a platform, but you can just trust a immutable set of code, which is transparent and you can read it. Obviously, most people will not read it, but it can be audited in those aspects. I think that brings in a lot of the power that blockchain technology can bring.
I totally agree. I actually started watching the post office scandal, the UK post office scandal. People, so I'm just going to go very quickly about it. Basically, the post office, which is a private company that is being subsidized by the government, so the government pays taxpayer money to them, but they are actually a private entity. Paid like $1 billion, I think.
Yeah.
It was $1 billion, right? Pounds to get a software from Fujitsu called Horizon, which was an accounting software used by all the post offices. And post offices in the UK are quite particular because they run by regular people who just have to get the right to be a post head. And basically, there was a bug with that software, and they kept hiding it, etc. So they were actually having to send money that they did make to the post office. Some were sued, some committed suicide, etc. Honestly, a massive scandal, and was kind of like hidden quite well. And that's where you realize that like those are the kinds of entities where transparency from the main actor, so Post Office Limited, would make so much, because again, they are being paid by taxpayer money. They are supposed to serve the population, and yet they got away with making atrocious decisions. So and again, I think that didn't help with putting trust in the system, and that's, I think, a good use case where blockchain could actually help.
Yeah, and just to that point, I think the only thing I'd add in there is corruption's a pretty big thing in many industries, many areas, and also many companies. When you get to a scale where you have thousands of employees and so on, your ethos may be completely against corruption and everything like this, but you can't necessarily guarantee that one person that might just come in, or maybe they've even been hacked and then they can change things and all it. I think there's a lot of benefits with all of these aspects, and that's also one of the reasons why we chose MultiversX, because of the security aspects there as well. So it's, and then so this CETUS thing, actually, this hack there with SWE is very interesting, and we're watching that quite closely in terms of what that means for blockchain's future. And so I think that's a big thing that's going to change a lot of the way the industry looks at immutability, control, and I think trust in the future.
Yeah, no, 100%. We discussed that for over an hour, so I don't think we're going to go back there. But yeah, you're muted, Jerem.
Thank you very much, Thomas. It's really appreciated to have you on the show. You know that you are always welcome, and it's also a good thing to have builders of MultiversX on the show to come and say how they build, why they build, and what they encounter, what are their ambitions, and Thomas, if you want to stay, of course, feel free to do it. But I wanted to finish this show with what happened yesterday. It's, in my opinion, something pretty huge because guys, QoWatt is one of the biggest project on MultiversX. They raised more than around $10 million a few years ago in EGLD. Unfortunately, they did not swap the treasury, and so they lost, we can say, almost 75% of the funds. They invested more than $2 million in the project. They developed a lot of infrastructure to recharge electric cars and so on. I will not go back to the project in itself, but yeah, they are out of cash. They have left 200,000 or 300,000. This is the amount that the CEO yesterday announced during the live AMA in the Telegram with the community. And yeah, they launched a new program, a new financing program. It's a QoWatt share, so the community can, we can say, invest. Like it's like crowdfunding, but not exactly. So the community can invest to develop more infrastructures. And he wanted to make an update with the community with the free questions or free answers. It was pretty cool. And in this show, he said that 2 or 3 months ago, he called. He called. Comment on dit appeler à l'aide? Called help. He asked for help. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
For help, yeah.
To the MultiversX Foundation because yeah, he's out of cash, and he wanted to know if it was possible to have a grant or to have some help, because he considered, as an historical builder and who has never sold any EGLD more than what he needed to develop, of course. And yeah, and so he met Benjamin and what's the first name of Serb? The first name. Daniel?
Daniel, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So Benjamin and Daniel, during a video conference, he posted a picture about this Zoom session on X. And Benjamin at this moment told him, okay, please, Hugo, can you wait for 2-3 months? Because big things are happening. So Hugo said, okay, we'll do our best. It will be difficult, but okay, we'll try to wait. And actually, nothing happened. I'm just saying what Hugo said. Okay, I haven't, of course, checked, so it's just him and what he says. And yesterday he said during the AMA that yeah, he doesn't trust Minku's anymore and MultiversX, and so he planned he proposed. It's not done, but it's something that he's thinking about, and he asked his lawyers to challenge this strategy, because he is a regulated company, to remove everything on MultiversX, the NFT, the SFTs, the ESDTs, like everything that is on MultiversX, to make the QoWatt ecosystem lighter, okay, and to migrate everything on another blockchain. Not everything, like one single token, make it lighter, but on another blockchain, could be Solana or Base. So remind us what happened with Globase, who decided to open to Solana and also to remove most of the assets, because too many assets make the ecosystem too complicated. So make it lighter and to move on another ecosystem. So that's what was announced yesterday. So of course the community was a bit surprised, but not that much. Some of them said, do the best for QoWatt. Okay, you're not working for MultiversX, you're working for a QoWatt. So yeah, so this is what happened yesterday. Of course, I will try to have Hugo on the show, but he doesn't speak English very well. So well, I'll try to have maybe Edward, he's a CMO, very soon. But in the meantime, I just wanted to have your opinion about that. Did you hear about it? And now you do. What do you think? Do you think it's sad? Do you think it's normal? Do you think it's QoWatt's fault because they did not sell the GLD at the beginning? So what's your take as a builders, Joachim, Thomas, and Davy? You guys are building, so your opinion is interesting. Who wants to start?
Everyone jumping to the mic.
Okay, you start.
Okay, I'll go. Sure. I'm always the first one on complicated questions. So it is. No, I do actually find that to be a complicated question for several reasons. I personally know Hugo, and I appreciate him a lot as a person and what he has brought to the ecosystem and his project. I think there is two topics in one. One is funds, grants, etc. That is a complicated topic because, as we know, MultiversX is trying to raise funds now. They never raised a lot of funds in the first time, and obviously most of the treasury also is in the GLD, and as we know with the price of the GLD, the same for them. They don't really want to spend those GLDs when they're worth as little as they're worth now. They had a bit like QoWatt. When the QoWatt did the raise, EGLD was, I think, above 200, maybe. I'm not sure. Anyway, EGLD was performing much better, and then it went dwindling down like many tokens. And both of them didn't take the decision to actually swap for more stable currencies, which is, again, from a foundation, I think we would have had a lot of complaint if they did sell EGLDs. But that's what the foundation does. They're very good at finding the top at the foundation. We're not. But anyway, so there's the funds part where like there is kind of like a waiting for a better tomorrow. It looks like it from the foundation to be able to support more initiatives, etc. And that was maybe why Benny was saying wait 2-3 months. What's supposed to happen in 2-3 months, we do not know. And again, as you said, Jerem, it's Hugo's word. And then there's the part of moral support, which I think there is actually something that can be done and a card that can be played by the team, and is simply to be more present for builders. And again, being present for builders doesn't mean promising mountains and grants of several hundreds of thousands or millions, but it's just giving at least the impression that the builders are being listened to, that you can have conversations with them, that we can have good exchanges, and that MultiversX, and that's where I think like I've seen some other chains which I find quite inspiring. And Davey might tell an anecdote or two from Solana, and I think it was Mert. But basically, that the L1 and team, their main focus should be to attract builders, maintain builders, so they build on their ecosystem and not elsewhere. And that comes with taking the time to be accessible for them, to cherish the builders, and to make them feel like they've made the right decision on building on that chain. And Davey, if you want to give a few anecdotes about either Sui or Solana, feel free. I think you had a story about Solana.
Like some great stories about Solana that were said by some is, for example, Toli, which is the co-founder of Solana, literally begged projects to build on Solana at the beginning. I don't know like the actual things that happen in the back, but the fact that a founder really goes into the trenches begging projects to build on Solana probably set the culture for projects being felt as the priority of the ecosystem. And now if we look at Solana, like the foundation isn't developing the project. Like most of the development is happening at Anza or at Agave, which are third-party development firms. And what the foundation does is having basically an army of business developers, DevRels, etc., and supporting builders. And it was the strategy all along. So they had a lot of hackathons. They always tried to find partnerships for the projects. So it's similar to not saying projects, yeah, it's your responsibility to grow the project, but it's saying it's our responsibility, so of everyone involved. So if I can find a way for you, I don't know, Camino to be successful, I go to Camino and say, yeah, I have this partner that could be interested in working with you. And it's a different mentality. So should the foundation be neutral and not go into this kind of dynamics, or it should? Because Ethereum doesn't do that. Like the Athena team, for example, which now is big, said that they were contacted by the Ethereum Foundation only, like there was a video, it was like 18 months after they started building on Ethereum. And this Solana team, as soon as they announced, like in backdoors, that they wanted to start building on Solana, the Solana team went to them. So it was an active approach and not a passive approach.
But I also think that it's important to mention that obviously Ethereum being the first chain with smart contracts, there wasn't much competition. If you went to buy Web3 and you want to contribute and you wanted to build something more than what Bitcoin had to offer, it was Ethereum. Nowadays, and when Solana arrived, Solana was competing against Polygon and Polygon Matic, L2, the BSC, etc. There was a competition of attractiveness, and Ethereum, obviously. And that is where I think Ethereum is kind of like the odd case because they had everything for themselves for a very long time.
Yeah, it could be like, the point is, even the Athena founder, what he said in the video is, building on Ethereum, I didn't feel like I was welcomed. Like the foundation actually believed in what I'm building and supported me. On the other hand, he said that on Solana, he has this different feeling. It makes a difference. What is the best approach? Like, based on the evidence now, it seems that being extremely active, supporting projects, trying to do the active DevRel, active business development for the projects actually works in creating an alignment for builders. So you want builders to believe in the ecosystem, to believe in the chain. And if you leave them alone or don't do enough in order to align them, probably is more decentralized, but also less efficient.
I would say if you help everyone evenly, if you're accessible to everyone, it doesn't remove decentralization. Is if you start cherry picking your favorites and having that, then it becomes highly centralized and debatable. But if anyone can reach out to you, reach out to everyone, no matter what you think of them in a sense, except that you think they're obvious scams, etc. Obviously, I think that is still a form of decentralization, because by the end of the day, blockchain is a service provider, right? We provide a decentralized database. And as, again, I'm going to use Google Cloud or AWS as examples, you want people to use your software, use your block space to gain adoption. And for that, so basically your goal as the person developing and behind that technology is to get builders. So I think I 100% agree with you, Davey, that like the proactive approach to make sure everyone is feeling welcomed and supported is extremely important. And yeah, like I'm not saying we should let everything go. That like if an actor, a builder, is misbehaving, saying something about it, etc., is something. I wouldn't go about using the clown emoji, but that's a different topic. But yeah. Anyway, Thomas, what do you think?
I think it's a very interesting topic. It's something that we've seen for a few months now, especially as the the altcoin bear market has dragged on a lot longer than anyone expected. And I think a lot of projects were planning their timelines around the next bull run coming to be able to actually survive, essentially, if not from raising more money, then at the very least from selling some of their tokens in their treasury at a higher price to be able to keep their runway going longer. I can't speak too much from the QoWatt point. I don't know Hugo. I've never met him. I always liked the vision of QoWatt, and I like them as a project. The thing I guess I always go back to, especially I guess in the way that we're running our company, is I think a lot of the time in Web3, people are now almost, they were spoiled with the opportunities, with the kind of huge hype cycle within these bull runs and these token prices. And then, you know, Avalanche raising $300 million or whatever it was that they raised, all of these kind of things, they would then bring out their huge grant programs and treasuries. And I was always a big fan of grants, but not just necessarily throwing them out and giving them around. And
well, you're probably the one who's received the biggest grant on MultiversX, even if it wasn't from MultiversX.
You're right. You're right, completely. Yeah, I think we did. Yeah, you're right, definitely. The only thing I'd say with grants is, you know, you're earmarked, so you have to spend it in a specific way. Otherwise, you know, you can't claim the grant. So it's not as free as just raising cash like a lot of startups do. But I guess to the point I was making there is, you know, fundraising is difficult. Running a startup is really difficult. Product market fit is insanely difficult. I think most blockchains have not found, if not all blockchains have not found product market fit right now. And product market fit is where you found the demand with a customer so much so that they're almost begging you to keep going and to use your product. And I think most people have not found it. That's the thing that all startups are looking for, because that's where you really become a big startup and successful. And I guess the only thing I would say with all of that in mind is you can't rely on any specific person or funder or infrastructure or anything like this. You need to always be looking for the other things. And I would definitely agree with the message of do what's best for your company. If moving to a different chain or if doing other things is best, then potentially that could be good for you. But if you're just using it for infrastructure as blockchain, like we are, for example, then technically the technology is the thing that you're looking for the most, not the funding or the liquidity. And if you want funding or liquidity, then you need to find it from other sources as well. So, but it's a very complicated thing, and
that's where I'll agree with you on most part. But like if we go back to, I'm going to use again cloud providers as a counterpart. Like most cloud providers will give you like 10K, 20K in credits when you apply with them, if you actually go through the time of taking the form, etc., and explaining what you do, and they accept. And those credits, obviously, for them isn't a real cost other than the expense of running the machines, etc. And similarly, a little bit, and I know there was building blocks by X Alliance that covered gas fees up to $2,000 a month. For a period of 6 months that could be renewed, I think was the rule. But like, I think that is actually something that is interesting to explore and debate, because, as you say, you pick the infrastructure for the technology, you pick Google Cloud or AWS, but they're quite similar. So if one offers you 10K in credits and the other one doesn't offers you 2K in credits, you're obviously going to go for the one who offers you 10K. And that is where like there is similarity with blockchain, in the sense that like you need to have incentives for people to for them to be easy to build, cheap to build. Because what we don't realize is, most people don't realize because they don't interact with those solutions every day, but like AWS, Google Cloud, Firebase, Superbase, all those solutions, they've tailored and they've spent so many hours making it as easy as possible for builders to use, to make it attractive. And they're probably spending a fortune on that. I'm not saying they're not making money, they're probably making heaps of money, but like they are spending a lot of resources. So in the same sense, it is the same. Blockchain should do the same. Good documentation, grants, again, at least to cover gas fees, because again, running blockchain is much more expensive than running cloud service if you start having a lot of transactions. And again, that's where MultiversX actually has quite a high transaction fee if we compare it to other chains like again Solana. So yeah, I agree with you that there's a product market fit, etc., and that blockchain is first of all infrastructure. It just is that weird thing where like it is kind of like Google Cloud again, cloud provider, but with the option to have all the Google users be able to do a Kickstarter for you at the same time. So there's this like mixing of all those different features in one place that makes the dynamic similar yet very different in a very interesting way. But I still think that like the mindset of you need to attract builders at any cost is very, very important for a blockchain to strive. Because like the example of QoWatt, and that's what saddens me by hearing that their departure in the coming months, is that like it's such a good case for MultiversX to explain that like there is actually charging stations, charging infrastructure running across well France and maybe in the future Europe that is powered by MultiversX. Like that's like kind of like the success story you want to tell when you're talking to another big actor to make them come to MultiversX. Well, if they see that like such a big actor left, it's like why did they leave? And it makes you ask questions. So like I think that's where again good relationships with builders, even if you can't support them financially as much as they would like, is vital to an ecosystem.
I agree. I think there's also a point that you're alluding to there as well, Joachim, whereas, you know, only promise the kind of things that you can deliver as well, and over promising and then getting some people and projects to run their business in a way where they've been promised something and they're actually expecting it to happen, and then it doesn't happen, is not a great thing to happen, especially when you're running payroll every month and all of these kind of aspects like that. So it's a big thing that I would say as well.
Absolutely. And as you say, like I think like we kind of like because founders raise funds, etc., we think they have in his life, but as I say, like the thing they want to do is make their company survive. And as you say, like they're paying wages to people, people are dependent on them. It is a highly stressful position to be in. And I think we forget that sometimes, and I think we're a bit too quick to say, oh, they're traitors to MVX because they're going to another chain. No, like a builder's goal, first of all, is to make the company survive no matter what, and then second of all is well to attract clients and to satisfy investors. So even as investor, even as investor who is a maxi MVX, etc., if they believe as a company that it is the right decision for them to thrive, you just have to support them, even if you disagree, because like you as an individual won't make them change their mind, and going against them won't actually help.
The only
in any
thing I
way.
would tweak to that, which I do essentially completely agree with, is the first goal, in my opinion, for a leader of a company or startup is to create something that people truly want, and people, you know, that will make the world a better place, more efficient place, whatever you want to say, depending on what your business is. And I would say that's the
So
first goal.
beautiful.
And then the second goal
It's so beautiful.
Yeah,
five.
but yeah, but that's where I kind of disagree. I would say it's more important to be able to stay afloat, to be able to um, get to that vision than the other way around. Because if you're too focused on a long-term vision of making an impact on a positive impact on the world, etc., you might actually and I consider Gap Labs to be one of that case, that we basically try to achieve something too big, too far away that like you run out of cash, etc., on the way to it. Well, if you're actually being a bit more realistic, a bit more pragmatic, and maybe
It's
cynical to a certain
it's
extent,
like
you will
in a
do.
relationship. If you are too focused on wedding and children and so on, you don't focus on the first time that you need to have fun. You need to get to know the partner and so on. So I agree with you, Joachim. Thank you very much, guys, for this discussion. Maybe I promised you, Joachim, and it's important to me. Let's speak to finish this show about RaceLedger. So you, Joachim, but I think it was a team effort. You launched a RaceLedger, which is you will introduce, you will present what is it,
Yeah,
and it was this
so
weekend in Romania during the marathon. So tell us about it. No problem, Tomos. It was a pleasure to have you, and see you soon on GM Web3. Take care.
take care, Thomas.
He didn't even say bye. Okay.
He waved.
No, just kidding. Okay, so yeah, Joachim, what is RaceLedger? Make it short, and more important,
Yes.
tell us what happened last weekend, and yeah, tell us about it.
So one of the things we felt missing the most on MultiversX for a while is good account abstraction. And so we started with Gappa login, as I've already presented. I won't go into details into that. Is easy ways to log in through Google, but also through socials. And we decided what better way than to actually show a proof of concept of social login that uses the power of blockchain, but being completely hidden for the user. And basically, we were chatting with the folks at VeroPay that created the bracelet for the CB marathon, powered therefore by MultiversX and Hardex, Money, Exporter, etc. sponsors. And we worked with them so that that bracelet, in addition to be able to scan it at the different shops, etc., to be able to purchase things, claim, participate in exportal giveaways, etc., allowed you to link your Strava account to RaceLedger. So Strava, for people who don't know, is an app that is used by nearly every runner in the world that allows you to track your races. It has kind of like a social feed where you can, it's called kudos, basically, support others, etc. So we added this login, and basically as soon as you log in with Strava, link to your Strava profile, we create a wallet. And then, a bit like Thomas said, we don't focus on speculation, but we focus on immutability and keeping memories. And basically, any user that had participated to the marathon or the half marathon and had used Strava could immortalize this moment by having a dynamically generated dynamic NFT with the race time, the trial, etc. And basically, on top of that, we're working on providing a service that allows you to print a poster with a QR code or an NFC that shows your race and all kinds of merch. So the goal is to, again, a bit like Thomas was saying to Philanthrify, is to use the benefits of blockchain to provide a service to a specific market. And in this case, it is running, because I have quite a lot of people around me that are very fond of running. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I support them how much I can. And I've been to a lot of marathons supporting them. And I always thought, like, it's so great that they have this like massive milestone, and then it just get lost in the feed on Strava when it is something to be remembered. So we coded that quite quickly, and with the support of VeroPay, it was a lot of fun. And as we saw during the marathon, it was super easy. People were just tapping their phone, logging with the Strava, and you would just find the races that matched it, and you could immortalize it. It would take like 30 seconds for the user. Honestly, like, for us, it was a nice way to prove that account abstraction is extremely important and can bring a lot of new users to the ecosystem in general.
Very cool, very cool. So what's the next step for RaceLedger? Is there another marathon that is planned, or do you plan to make it as a, I don't know, like a user, like a consumer app, like with this B2C strategy, but not only around a big event like a marathon?
So it is B2C logic. So what we're going to do, and we've started to do, is do a list of all upcoming marathons that we can find, add them to our database, and basically any runner participating in any marathon that we cooperate, we have an algorithm in the back that checks that the race hasn't been faked and that it actually matches the trail, etc. We spend quite a lot of time on that. And basically, we don't need to be physically there or be partners with the event. The racer can do it whenever. It's obviously our job to gain awareness through the races that they can do that. and then a revenue stream would come from selling, again, merch, posters, etc. Because you can create a poster of any race. It doesn't need to be an approved race for you to create merch around it. But if it is an approved one, you will get the verification tag with the QR code or NFC that validates it and links it to the digital copy.
Okay, and so I asked you a question on Twitter a few days ago. I will finish by this one. Some people
Yes.
are asking for real runners to run for them so they can have some alibi, some free time to do something else, something maybe is not.
Yeah, we're all wondering what the exchange
So
is.
will RaceLedger fix this or not yet?
So what, as of now, we're only using Strava login. So we're taking the data from Strava. Strava has their own verification systems too. But in the case you were explaining, as you said, like the user actually, the guy who runs for the user, actually log in to their account and run for them. So it is actually a physical run. So it's very hard to prove that it's not that person, because obviously you would need Face ID recognition before you start running or something. So that is very hard to trick. But again, I don't. It is actually illegal to participate to marathons and semi-marathons, official ones, in the name of someone else. So there are some verifications that are actually taking place physically at the events that help us ensure that. And I kind of find it funny because like they go through so much effort of actually paying someone to run for them, when in reality they're quite easy tricks to just program it yourself and not having to pay anyone. But that's a topic for another day.
Have you ever tried?
So the era where Steppen was very popular.
I mean, with your girlfriend, have you ever tried to have some free time by programming a race that you didn't do?
No, because she would be like, Joachim, you never race. Why would you race? What would be my worst alibi ever? So no, very bad one.
Thank you very much, Joachim, for coming this morning. Davey, are you still here?
Yes,
Thank you very much, my friend, to take the time often on Wednesday to come and discuss unfiltered and about MultiversX, the strength, but also the weakness, and how maybe we can make it better. Thank you for all those who listen to us. Of course, you can find this show in replay on YouTube, but also on podcast in a few minutes. See you next Wednesday for a new GM Web3 MultiversX. And thank you to the partners, Atom and Apes. Thank you very much. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye, guys.